On May 3, 2023, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services issued a press release on the growing epidemic of loneliness in the United States. In one area of their press release, they said the following: "Disconnection fundamentally affects our mental, physical, and societal health. In fact, loneliness and isolation increase the risk for individuals to develop mental health challenges in their lives and can increase the risk for premature death by as much as 60%. Additional studies and research indicated the physical health consequences of loneliness include a 29% increased risk of heart disease, a 32% increased risk of stroke, and a 50% increased risk of developing dementia for older adults." All of this underscores an unavoidable truth. We are living in the age of loneliness. It is not only a growing threat to the well-being of our younger generations, but those who are affected the most are 50 and over. Most alarming of all is that the majority of those affected by loneliness were likely never taught how to identify limiting beliefs or how to interact with their inner critic. Why is this important? Because at the heart of feeling lonely, isolated, undervalued, and unloved are limiting beliefs, most of which are reinforced by your inner critic.
Hi, I'm Joanie Marx. I'm a 3-time international best-selling author and the creator of 3 acclaimed online courses for Udemy.com. And before that, with only $20 and a ball of string, I started a multi-million-dollar consumer product company. I've also enjoyed 3 decades in Hollywood as a character actor, brand spokeswoman, and independent producer. Like millions of others, I too have felt the pain of loneliness, none more so than after the death of my husband, Joe. How did I overcome this? By learning to love myself unconditionally. This 8-part mini-series is based on my new book, Finding True Love After 50. Together, they are the culmination of all I've learned about creating your ultimate dream life after 50 through the power of true love. So, what are limiting beliefs, and how do they cause you to feel unloved, undervalued, and lonely? We're going to look at that now. A limiting belief is a recurring thought whose underlying premise and origin is rooted in fear, scarcity, and unworthiness, targeting that soft underbelly of who you are. Limiting beliefs convince you that you don't have enough of what it takes to be loved, successful, happy, or fulfilled. Once a limiting belief takes root, several more limiting beliefs show up. Before you know it, your choices in life and how you feel about yourself are encircled by limiting beliefs. When you don't feel you are good enough to be, do, and have your desires fulfilled, beliefs you may have once thought were beneficial turn on you. From there, it's a steep drop into a variety of health issues, such as depression and other psychosomatic disorders. For these reasons and more, limiting beliefs are a gateway into loneliness, where the debilitating effects of limiting beliefs are then amplified. Now that you have a sense of what limiting beliefs are, let's look at where they come from. In whatever ways each of us have been raised or educated, the foundation for how we view ourselves and what we believe our place in the world is all comes down to one thing: our belief system. From parents and teachers to influential figures in society, our entire belief system was molded and shaped by authority figures. To disobey what you are being told to do and how to think brought about harsh consequences.
No matter how it was said, the beliefs that we were told to follow always had a threat or reward attached to them by an authority figure. For example, if you do as we say and believe as we do, life will be easy and you will be loved, valued, and happy. If you disobey us and do not believe as we do, you will be punished, isolated, and suffer accordingly. Even if we resisted the beliefs that we were taught to embody, ultimately we adopted them as our own as a means to survive our childhood. But what about now? As adults, with decades of wisdom and experience to rely on, why do so many of us continue to buy into limiting beliefs that do not serve our well-being? After all these years, could it be that we are unconsciously afraid of the consequences if we think and act differently? And who or what is convincing us that we should hold on to our limiting beliefs even when we want to release them?
Now, I want us to take a look at our inner critic and see the role it plays in loneliness and feelings of isolation and unworthiness.
Your inner critic is the voice of your limiting beliefs. It speaks to you from within your own mind, manipulating your perception of reality through fear, scarcity, and shame. Although your inner critic has likely been the most prominent voice in your adult life, it originated in your childhood. For most people, this occurred when your inner child was forced into the shadows through a traumatic experience. Unbeknownst to you, it was during one of these early childhood experiences that your inner critic took over as your protector. From that point, your inner critic has been in the driver's seat of your life, steering you through most of your choices and experiences as an adult. Although your inner critic loves you and does not want to harm you, it seeks to maintain its relevance and control in your life through your limiting beliefs, most of which are tied to unhealed trauma. To heal the lingering trauma and regain control over your inner critic requires professional guidance, but it also requires alone time. To be alone with your thoughts does not mean you are lonely, quite the opposite. When it comes to feeling self-empowered and loving yourself, your inner critic will use the silence of solitude as a means to get you to feel lonely. When you believe untrue stories about yourself, such as being unworthy, unloved, and undervalued, you will remain trapped in a vicious loop until you take back your power from your inner critic.
In my new book, Finding True Love After 50, I share numerous examples for reclaiming your power from your inner critic. For this episode, we're now going to look at 3 specific steps.
3 steps to reclaim power from your inner critic. Step 1. Recognize and acknowledge your inner critic. The first step is to identify when your inner critic is speaking to you through limiting beliefs and untrue stories. Acknowledge the presence of your inner critic without judgment. At first, this may not be easy, especially if you are dealing with the effects of loneliness or isolation. Remind yourself that you are speaking to a version of yourself who wants to protect you, but has never truly been taught what that looks or feels like to do so with love and compassion. Step 2. Understand your inner critic's origin. Reflect on the origins of your inner critic and journal your insights. The critical voices your inner critic often uses to communicate with you stem from past experiences and limiting beliefs from your childhood. Reframing this through the lens of love, compassion, and forgiveness can lessen the power of the inner critic's influence. And step 3, develop a loving and compassionate inner voice. Cultivate a kinder, more lovingly compassionate inner voice. This is where your true, authentic self comes in. When you are feeling lonely, isolated, or unloved, speak to yourself as you would to a dear friend, or even as you would to a young, emotionally fragile child. The more compassion, understanding, and empathy you extend to yourself, the more your outer life will reflect true love back to you.
Can true love exist in the age of loneliness? Yes, it can. I am living proof that by loving more of yourself, you can create your best life after 50. This 8-part series and my new book are my invitations to you to open your heart and allow true love to show you the path to where the life of your dreams lives.
In episode 3 of this 8-part mini-series based on Joanie Marx's new book, Finding True Love After 50, you will discover what the 7 myths of love and happiness are and their direct role in the epidemic of loneliness and isolation. As we age, none of us want to feel lonely or isolated from others. Unfortunately, navigating life changes after 50 and confidently accessing true love is not something most of us were raised on or taught how to do. In the pages of her fourth best-selling book, Joanie Marx delivers life-altering benefits and timely insights on important topics such as creating self-love practices, developing healthy self-esteem, releasing limiting beliefs, rehabilitating your inner critic, setting healthy boundaries, being playful and laughing more often, and visualizing your dreams into reality. This is a unique book that helps you integrate what you are learning into your daily life with invigorating step-by-step processes and thought-provoking journal prompts. How can Joanie Marx help you overcome loneliness and live your best life after 50? By ordering Joanie's new book, Finding True Love After 50, subscribing to Joanie's popular YouTube channel, enrolling in Joanie's acclaimed online courses at udemy.com, and subscribing to Joanie's podcast, Finding True Love After 50, on all major podcast platforms. If you host or produce a podcast, arrange an engaging interview with Joanie by emailing her today at joanie@joaniemarx.com.